The green fog was thick. It wrapped around the broken machines and metal ruins like a blanket of poison. Jack moved slowly, wearing a breathing mask and heavy boots. The world of Verdanus Prime had been abandoned for years, ever since the Great Alien War. But junk still had value, and Jack was a scavenger. He scanned the broken cargo ship ahead with his visor. "Nothing but scrap," he muttered, kicking a bent panel aside. His scanner beeped one slow energy signal. He bent down to pick up a cracked power cell, slipping it into his sad CHEL. Then he heard it. At first, he thought it was wind. But wind didn't sound like that. It was a soft, broken noise. Like a child. Crying, he froze. Looked around, again it came. A small voice, whimpering. From deep inside the fog, Jack's hand reached for the pistol on his hip. His instincts screamed, "Don't go," toward it. This place was full of dangers, wild alien beasts, leftover traps, even fake distress signals, to lure scavengers like him into ambushes. But this didn't sound like a trap. It sounded scared, weak. Alone, Jack took a step forward. The fog grew thicker. He switched on his shoulder light. Shadows moved. His heart beat faster. He climbed over a crushed drone, pushed past a fallen pillar, and stopped. There, beneath. A shattered escape pod was a small figure, curled up. Shivering, it was not human. The child was alien blue skin, thin limbs, strange markings on the forehead. A torn white cloth was wrapped around his small body. His big golden eyes blinked at Jack. He looked more like a frightened animal than a warrior's child. Jack knelt. "Hey, ... can you hear me?" The boy didn't answer. His hands trembled. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. Jack lowered his weapon and slowly reached out. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The child stared, then suddenly lunged forward, hugging Jack's arm. Jack was surprised. His heart tightened. He could feel the boy's ribs through his arms. So thin, so cold. Jack sighed. "What are you doing out here, kid?" The boy whispered something in a strange alien tongue. Jack didn't understand, but he heard one word repeated. "Mama?" "Mama." Jack looked around. No one else. No sign of another ship. No fresh footprints. "You're lost, aren't you?" he said softly. The boy nodded slowly. Jack looked at him again. "I can't leave you here." He picked the boy up gently, wrapping his coat around him. The child clung to his chest like a baby animal. Jack could feel the fear, the confusion. "I'll get you out," he promised. Back at his small shelter, Jack laid the boy on a soft blanket and gave him warm broth. The child ate slowly, eyes always watching, hands still shaking. Jack didn't ask many questions. He just sat beside him, making sure he felt safe. "Don't worry," Jack whispered. "We'll figure this out." He tried sending a signal out. A simple broadcast on all common alien frequencies. Found lost child, injured, alone, seeking contact. No reply. The child was asleep now, curled up in a corner like a frightened kitten. Jack stared at him, then rubbed his tired eyes. "What have you gotten yourself into, Jack?" He muttered to himself. He knew he should have walked away. He wasn't a hero, just a junk collector. But something about the child, something innocent in those golden eyes, wouldn't let him turn back. Out in the fog, the wind howled again. But Jack didn't notice. He was watching over the boy, not knowing that forces far more dangerous than he'd ever faced were already hunting the child. And now they would come for him too, the next morning. The fog outside had not lifted. Jack stared at the blinking console, waiting for any signalini message from someone who might be searching for the child. But the screen stayed empty. Silent, the boy sat curled near the heater, holding a half-eaten ration bar. He didn't speak much, just watched Jack with those wide, glowing eyes. Every time Jack moved, The boy flinched, like he was used to paying Jack. Crouched beside him. "You warm enough?" The boy gave a small nod. Jack sighed and stood. "I'm taking you to Outpost 11. Someone there has to help. Maybe a translator. Maybe even a contact from your people." The boy didn't understand, but he reached out and gripped Jack's hand anyway. Tight, like he didn't want to let go. Jack gently patted his small shoulder. "Don't worry, not leaving you behind." 2 hours later, Jack's old hovercart slid across cracked, rust-covered metal plains. The boy sat wrapped in blankets beside him, his head resting against Jack's side. Outpost 11 rose in the distance, ugly, boxy, and loud. Machines hissed. Workers shouted. The smell of oil and acid burned Jack's nose the moment he entered the gates. He walked straight to the security office. "I found a child in the ruins," Jack said, setting the boy gently on a chair. "Alien, lost. He needs help."
The guard?
A grizzled man with gray stubble looked the boy over and scoffed. "Another stray? We don't run a shelter here." "He's just a kid," Jack said, frowning. "Probably injured, doesn't speak standard." Another guard leaned over. "Looks like high-born blood. Those forehead marks. That's noble class from the Lysari." "Dominion?" "Exactly," Jack said. "Which means someone might be looking for him. He could be in danger." The guards laughed. "Then let his own kind deal with him. We don't need trouble with aliens and their royal drama." Jack's fists clenched. "He's a child." "Not human," the first guard said coldly. "Not our problem." The boy started coughing. His tiny body trembled. One guard tossed a water bottle in his direction. It bounced and rolled to the floor. "Come on," Jack said through gritted teeth. He picked the boy up. "We're leaving." He walked to the medbay next. "Please," Jack said. "He's cold, weak. I think he's sick." The medica, tall woman in a white coat, took one glance and shook her head. "We're out of supplies. Unless he's human, I'm not allowed to waste medicine." Jack stared at her in disbelief. "He's a living being."
"I didn't make..."
"The rules," Jack left without another word. His chest felt tight. No one wanted to help. That night, Jack rented a small maintenance room on the edge of the outpost. He laid the boy down on a bed of folded towels, made a fire from scraps, and shared his last bit of soup. The boy whispered something. Jack leaned in. "What is it?" The child repeated a single word. "Sirai." Jack blinked. "Is that your name? Or your mother?" The boy gave the faintest nod. "Sarai," Jack repeated softly. "Okay, we'll find her." The boy's eyelids grew heavy. But before sleep took him, he reached out and gently touched Jack's face with a small glowing hand. Warmth passed between them. Soft and strange. Jack felt it like a wave. Not pain, not fear, but trust. It almost broke him. Later that night, Jack sat outside the room, back against the wall, staring at the stars above. He had come to this world for scrap, for money, alone. Always alone, but now, inside that tiny room, someone needed him, trusted him, and that changed everything. But far across the wastelands, under the ruins of a fallen city, someone else had also received a signal. Not the one Jack sent. This one was different, silent, cold, and dangerous. A bounty beacon, target found. Royal blood living. Coordinates attached. 3 ships lit their engines. They weren't coming to rescue the boy. They were coming to take him dead or alive. Jack carried the alien child in his arms as he stepped onto the dusty platform of Outpost 11. The outpost was ugly, just rusted metal buildings and people with cold faces. Engines roared in the distance, smoke filled the air, and machines screeched like angry beasts. Nobody smiled here. Nobody had time for strangers. The boy, still weak, hid his face in Jack's chest. His small hands clutched Jack's jacket like he feared someone would pull him away. Jack whispered, "It's okay, little guy. I'll find someone who can help." He didn't even know the child's name, but he had promised to protect him. Jack walked into the medical station first. A tired nurse looked up. "What's wrong with you?" "Not me," Jack said. "It's him. I found him in the fog. He's sick, cold, barely speaks." The nurse narrowed her eyes when she saw the boy's blue skin. Alien, yes, but just a child. Maybe 5 years old. "He needs food, rest, medicine." The nurse cut him off. "This station is for humans. Our resources are tight. Sorry." Jack stepped forward. "He's a child. Do you really care what species he is?" "Rules are rules," she said, and turned away. Jack stood there in silence, his fists clenched, but there was no point in shouting. No one cared. Next, he went to the admin building. The local communication center had a few dusty terminals. He spoke to a tall man with data pads in his hands. "I need to send a message. I found a lost alien child. Someone must be looking for him." The man didn't even look up. "You'll need to pay for that, emergency or not." "I don't have credits," Jack said, voice tense. "But this is serious. He might be royalty." Or the man finally looked up. "Then he's more trouble than he's worth." "What? You bring a noble alien kid here, and next thing you know, half the galaxy's after you." "I'm not getting involved." Jack felt something sharp twist in his chest. "You'd leave him to die." The man gave a shrug. "Better him than all of us." Jack walked out into the cold night, holding the boy close. He sat on a bench near the power station. Lights buzzed overhead. People passed by, staring, then looking away like he was carrying a bomb. The boy looked up at him. His golden eyes were tired. Jack smiled weakly. "We'll find help, somewhere." The boy tried to speak. His voice was dry. "Who, man?" Jack blinked. "Did you say human?" The boy touched his own chest. "Lan. Your name?" "Nalan." A nod. Jack nodded slowly. "All right, Nalan, that's a start." He looked around. Still no friendly faces. Later that night, Jack found an empty supply room behind the hangar bay. It smelled like oil and metal, but it was quiet. He made a bed from old cargo blankets and set Nalan down. The child was silent for a long time. Then he whispered, "Mama." Jack sat beside him and gently held his hand. "We'll find her, I promise." Nalan closed his eyes. One tear rolled down his cheek. Jack couldn't sleep. He paced outside the room, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, this boy had a home, a mother, a life before this, and now. No one wanted him. Not the nurses, not the soldiers, not even the traders, no one, except Jack. He returned to the communication panel and connected a basic transmitter. He tapped a message to any alien receivers. Found young child. Name, Nalan, possibly lost. Location, Verdanus Prime, Outpost 11. Human protector requesting help. He hit send. The signal went out, bouncing through old satellites, hoping anyone was listening back in the room. Nalan had fallen asleep, but he was still shaking. Jack took off his jacket and wrapped it around him. He looked small, fragile, but there was something else about him, something glowing beneath his skin. Not just light, something ancient. Something powerful. Jack didn't understand it, but he knew one thing. If he left Nalan here, he wouldn't survive the night. And if help didn't come soon, Jack would have to become more than just a scavenger. He'd have to become a protector, a fighter, a father far across space. A blinking signal reached a dark satellite. A pair of eyes opened in the shadows. The child was found, And now, the hunters would come? Jack didn't expect the signal to come through. In truth, he had already lost hope. He sat on the cold floor of the supply room, staring at the quiet child who now slept under a pile of blankets. NeonAlienz had cried in his sleep, soft, trembling sounds that made Jack's chest ache. The alien boy was sick. His skin was pale, his breathing uneven. And still, no one wanted to help. Jack rubbed his eyes and turned to the old transmitter he'd connected to the outpost's broken relay dish. The screen blinked slowly. Static filled the air. Useless. He was about to turn it off when the screen flickered. Then a voice broke through. Soft, broken, alien, female. NeonAlienz. Jack froze. He leaned in. Hello. This is Jack Human. I have NeonAlienz. He's alive. He's with me. The voice responded, but not in words he could understand. Strange symbols ran across the screen. The translator struggled. Then, slowly, painfully, a message formed. Protect him. I am coming. Do not trust anyone. Jack's heart pounded. Are you his mother? There was no reply. Only static now. But the message had reached him. Someone out there, his mother, was alive and searching. Jack didn't waste time. He packed the boys' things, what little they had. A blanket, a food pack, and the old alien necklace the boy wore. He placed the transmitter in a satchel and lifted NeonAlienz gently. We're not safe here anymore, Jack whispered. He had noticed something strange earlier. People watching him. The station guards who once ignored them now stared when they passed. A traitor had followed him for 5 whole minutes before turning away. Something had changed. Someone must have picked up the signal too, and not all listeners were kind as night fell. Jack made his move. He carried NeonAlienz through the alleys behind the hangars, past the fuel tanks and forgotten machines. The air was dry, the wind sharp. Every step made his heart beat louder in his ears. NeonAlienz stirred in his arms. Mama? Jack looked down. She's coming, kid. We have to stay alive until then. He made it to the scrapyard at the edge of the outpost. Rusted ships, old cargo haulers and broken drones lay in twisted piles. Jack knew this place well. He had lived here once, years ago. He climbed inside an old freighter husk, sealed the door behind him, and set NeonAlienz down in a corner. Here, at least, they'd be hidden. Jack checked the transmitter again. Nothing, just static. The signal had been too short, too weak, but the message stayed in his mind. Protect him. I am coming. Do not trust anyone. Why those words? Why don't trust anyone? He had a bad feeling. The next morning, Jack crept back into the outpost to steal supplies. He wore a hood, kept his head low as he passed the central square. He saw it. A bounty board, lit up with a new alert. Wanted, blue-skinned child. Classified threat. Reward, 80,000 credits. Jack's stomach dropped. The picture was blurry, but it was clearly NeonAlienz. A crowd had already gathered. Whispers filled the air. Looks like a noble. Why would a child have a bounty? They say it's not a child, it's a weapon. Jack backed away slowly. Eyes were scanning, searching. Some people were already moving, loading weapons. Preparing ships, he ran back at the freighter. Jack slammed the door shut behind him and locked every latch. NeonAlienz looked up weakly. What's wrong? Jack crouched down. They're looking for you, and not in a good way. The boy looked down, shame in his golden eyes. Sorry, Jack shook his head. No, never be sorry for existing. He knelt and took the boy's small hand. I don't know who you are, NeonAlienz, but I won't let them hurt you. The boy smiled just a little and leaned forward to hug Jack. And for the first time, Jack didn't feel alone. That night, Sky above Verdunus Prime flashed with fire. A ship entered atmosphere, fast, low, silent. It wasn't military. It wasn't a trader. It was dark, elegant, designed not to be seen, and it was heading straight for the outpost. Inside the ship, a woman sat in the pilot's chair. She wore silver armor, etched with symbols of royalty. Her eyes, gold like NeonAlienz, were sharp and cold, but her face trembled with emotion as she stared at the planet below. She pressed a button and whispered into the comm, "I'm coming, my son." Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat near the door of the rusted freighter, his pistol in his lap, eyes fixed on the darkness outside. The boy NeonAlienz slept curled in a blanket, unaware of the growing danger. The outpost was no longer safe. Not. Since the bounty went public, every shadow outside now felt like a threat. Every whisper of the wind sounded like footsteps. Jack had been hunted before, long ago during the border wars, but this was different. This time, someone was hunting a child, and that child was depending on him. At dawn, Jack heard it. A soft hum. In the sky. Not like the old outpost ships. This one was newer, quieter, and faster. He rushed to the top of the freighter, peeking through a small crack in the rusted hull. His heart froze. A sleek black ship hovered above the landing zone. The mother ship from before. This was something else. Unmarked, sharp, designed for speed and death. As it landed, 3 figures stepped out. Tall, armored, their faces hidden behind helmets with red glowing eyes. Jack didn't need to guess. Bounty. Hunters. He ducked down and ran back inside. NeonAlienz had woken up, blinking sleepily. "Jack," the boy whispered. "Get up," Jack said quickly. "Quietly now." NeonAlienz sat up, sensing the urgency. "Are they here?" Jack nodded. "Not your mother, someone else." He grabbed his satchel, tossed in the transmitter, and handed NeonAlienz a small bottle of water. "No matter what happens, stay close to me." The boy clutched Jack's hand tightly. Jack led him through the back of the freighter. There was a small emergency hatch that led into the junkyard tunnel's forgotten maintenance paths under the outpost. He opened the hatch. Dust poured out. "Come on," Jack whispered, helping NeonAlienz in first. Then, without a sound, they disappeared underground above. The hunters spread out. One scanned the ground. Another sniffed the air through a sensor. The third spoke into a device. Target was here less than 6 hours ago. Warm bedding. 2 heartbeats. The leader growled. The human took him. They moved like predators, silent and fast. Inside the freighter, they found the empty bed, the burnt-out heater, and the child's blanket. The smallest hunter picked up the blanket and sniffed it. "Royal blood," he said. Confirmed. The leader clenched his fist. "Send the signal. Lock the outpost down. No one leaves until we find the boy." Meanwhile, Jack and NeonAlienz crawled through the dark tunnels. Their boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Water dripped from pipes above. Old wires hung like spiderwebs. NeonAlienz was quiet, but his little hand never left Jack's. At one point, Jack stopped. "You okay?" The boy nodded, but Jack could see the fear in his eyes. "We'll be fine," Jack whispered. "I've been in tighter spots," NeonAlienz asked in a small voice. "Why are they after me?" Jack hesitated. "I don't know, but you're special. Maybe because of who your mother is, or maybe because of what you are." NeonAlienz looked down. "I don't want to be special. I just want her." Jack gently squeezed his shoulder. "We'll find her, I promise." Back above, chaos was spreading. The bounty alert had turned the outpost into a trap. All ships were locked down. Guards now worked with the hunters. Some people even joined the search for the reward. But a few kind souls whispered to Jax. Contact's words spread quietly. "The human with the child is being hunted." One old trader left a data chip in Jack's hidden locker. It read, "A royal ship entered the planet's orbit. A mother is looking for her child, but she's not the only one." Inside the tunnel, Jack found an old maintenance door. It led to a forgotten hangar bay. Small, abandoned. Perfect. He sat NeonAlienz down and checked the room. A broken drone. An empty fuel tank. But the walls were thick, and the air vents still worked. Jack looked at NeonAlienz. "We stay here until nightfall. Then we move." The boy nodded. Then, something unexpected. NeonAlienz reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny glowing stone. He held it in both hands and whispered in his own language. Jack stared. The stone floated in the air and lit the whole room with a soft blue light. "What is that?" Jack asked. NeonAlienz didn't answer. He simply said, "Mama gave it to me. She said, if you are ever alone, this will find me." Jack's eyes widened. "It's a beacon." NeonAlienz nodded. "But it only works once." Jack looked around. Then he made a decision. Use it now. NeonAlienz hesitated. "But what if they find us first?" Jack placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then we make sure she finds us before they do." As NeonAlienz activated the stone, a blue pulse shot into the air up through the tunnels. Into the clouds far above, the mother's ship caught the signal. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "He's alive." The sky turned red at first. No one noticed. Outpost 11 was already full of smoke, noise, and flashing lights. People shouted about the bounty. Ships were locked in docking clamps. The hunters were still searching, scanning every face, every shadow. But high above them, something massive moved through the clouds, quiet at first. Then Roaring Jack looked up from the broken hangar roof and froze. The clouds were splitting apart. Fire rained down in streaks. Not an attack, a landing. "She's here," Jack whispered. NeonAlienz stood beside him, holding the glowing stone. Its light pulsed faster now, like a heartbeat. Jack dropped to one knee and stared into the sky. A sleek silver ship burned through. The atmosphere, its engines glowing like suns. It wasn't a military vessel. It wasn't designed for war. But it screamed power. "She didn't bring soldiers," Jack muttered. "She came alone." The ship didn't land at the outpost. It dropped straight into the far side of the junkyard, hard. Fast and fiery. The ground shook as metal towers fell and sparks flew across the sky. Jack covered NeonAlienz with his body as the shockwave hit the hangar. Dust poured down from the ceiling. Lights flickered. NeonAlienz trembled. "Is she okay?" Jack helped him up. "She's more than okay." On the other side of the yard, the silver ship hissed open. The door lowered slowly. Steam rushing out from beneath. A tall figure stepped out. She wore silver armor that shimmered in the fading light. Her dark hair flowed down her back. Her golden eyes scanned the ruins with fierce, sharp focus. In her hand, she held a staff fetched with royal symbols and glowing softly. Her body was covered in cuts and burns from the crash. But she didn't care. She only had one thought. Find NeonAlienz. The hunters were already moving. They had seen the fire in the sky too. Target's mother, the leader growled. Capture or kill. They moved quickly through the junk piles, using short-range scanners to track the signal. They didn't care about honor. They didn't care about peace. They cared about the bounty, and they would take down anyone in their way. Jack grabbed a pulse rifle from the corner of the hangar. "NeonAlienz," he said, voice firm, "you stay right here. Don't move unless I say. Understand?" NeonAlienz looked scared. "But I'll bring her to you, I promise." Jack opened the side door and ran into the shadows. The mother stepped forward, eyes glowing now with raw energy. Her fingers touched. The glowing stone hanging from her neck pulsed in rhythm with the one her son had. She closed her eyes, whispered something in her language, and suddenly she felt him, alive. Nearby, her feet moved faster, but before she could take 10 more steps, blaster fire exploded from the right. She spun her staff, deflecting the shot. Her armor sparked. She ducked and rolled behind a half-crushed vehicle. 3 hunters surrounded her from the sides. "You are outnumbered," the leader growled. "Surrender." She looked up slowly and smiled. "Try me." Jack was already moving through the junkyard. He followed the fire trail, leaping over wreckage and ducking under pipes. He heard the gunfire, and then the roar of something alien. Not a machine, not human, not animal, something old, something royal. Jack ran faster. Back in the hangar, NeonAlienz sat alone. His hands shook. He could feel her now. Close. So close. The glowing stone buzzed in his hand. Suddenly, the roof above him ripped open. A hunter dropped down, metal boots slamming into the floor. NeonAlienz gasped. He tried to run, but the hunter grabbed him by the arm. "Got you," the hunter sneered. NeonAlienz screamed, but then, boom. The hangar door exploded inward. Jack stood there, rifle in hand, face covered in dirt and fury. "Let him go," he said coldly. The hunter laughed. You're nothing." Jack aimed. "Then come find out." They fought in silence. Jack ducked the first strike, rolled, and fired. The blast hit the wall. The hunter lunged, swinging a blade. Jack blocked with the rifle, sparks flying. NeonAlienz crawled away to the corner, eyes wide with terror. The fight was brutal, fast punches. Shattered crates, broken tools. But Jack didn't give up. He had nothing to lose, and someone to protect. With a final yell, Jack grabbed a heavy pipe and slammed it into the hunter's helmet. The visor cracked. The hunter fell. Breathing hard, Jack limped to NeonAlienz. "You okay?" NeonAlienz nodded, but behind them, a second hunter appeared in the doorway. This one raised a long weapon, glowing red. Too late to run. Too late to fight. Jack pulled NeonAlienz close and covered him. Then a flash of silver. A blur of motion, and the hunter flew through the wall, smashed by a glowing staff. Jack looked up. She stood there, armor cracked, hair wild, eyes burning. "NeonAlienz," she breathed. The boy ran to her, tears streaming. "Mama?" She fell to her knees and wrapped him in her arms, holding him tight like she'd never let go again. Jack stepped back, heart pounding. They had found each other, but the danger was far from over. The sky over Outpost 11 was dark now, filled with smoke and sparks. Jack leaned against the broken wall of the hangar, breathing hard. His arms were sore, his face cut, his clothes torn, but NeonAlienz was safe. And the boy's mother, who had fought like a storm wrapped in silver armor, was now sitting quietly on the floor, holding her son close. Jack had expected her to be cold, royal, distant. But in this moment, she was just a mother. "I thought I lost you," she whispered into NeonAlienz's ear in her alien language. "I crossed the stars, my child, and I would have crossed fire." NeonAlienz buried his face into her shoulder. "I waited, Mama." Watched them silently, his heart strangely full. Then she looked up at him for the first time. Their eyes met fully. Jack didn't move. She stood slowly, her armor shining in the flickering lights. Her face was strong, beautiful, but tired. "You are the human who protected my son?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Name's Jack." There was silence between them. Then she gave him the smallest bow of her head. "I am Soraya, daughter of the Lysari throne, and mother to the child you risked your life to save." Jack shrugged. "Didn't feel like a choice. You didn't know who he was. You helped him anyway." He was crying in the fog, Jack said softly. That's all I needed to know. Soraya walked to him, slowly, carefully. NeonAlienz stood at her side, still holding her hand tightly. I owe you more than words, she said. I didn't do it for a reward. She looked at him, confused. Then why? Jack sighed. Because everyone else walked away. Someone had to care. For a moment, Soraya said nothing. Then her eyes softened. You cared. When even his own kind would not. Before she could speak again, a sound echoed through the broken hangar. A sharp whistle. Then, boom, the ground shook. Jack ducked and grabbed NeonAlienz. What now? Soraya spun toward the source. Outside, a new group of figures marched through the junkyard, heavily armed, more organized. These weren't bounty hunters. They were soldiers. Lysari traders. They followed me here, Soraya said, eyes narrowing. They want NeonAlienz because of his blood. If he lives, the throne is not theirs. Jack frowned. So now I'm in the middle of an alien civil war. Soraya's face was grim. Now you are in a war where the enemy knows no mercy. Explosions lit the night sky. Soraya turned to Jack. Can you fight? Jack nodded. I fought worse. She raised an eyebrow. Doubtful. He smirked. You haven't seen. Earth bars on payday. Despite the danger, she smiled just for a second. Then she tossed him a small silver disc. What's this? Shield emitter. Put it on your chest. It may keep your heart inside your body. Comforting Jack muttered, placing it under his jacket. She turned to NeonAlienz and knelt. Stay here, no matter what. Don't move. No matter what you hear. NeonAlienz looked scared again. Mama, I will return. Jack looked at the boy. I will too. Outside, Soraya and Jack moved like a team. She danced through the fire, her staff spinning, armor glowing. He stayed behind cover, firing shots. With quick aim, drawing enemies toward him. They didn't speak much. They didn't have to. The soldiers came hard, fast. But they hadn't expected a human to be standing beside the queen. One soldier shouted, "Kill the outsider." Jack ducked and fired back. You're welcome to try. Soraya leaped from a pile of wreckage and slammed her staff down, releasing a wave of energy that sent for men flying. Jack stared. Remind me never to argue with you. Back in the hangar, NeonAlienz waited. The light from his stone had gone dim. His small hands gripped the blanket tightly. He wanted to help. He wanted to fight, but he remembered his mother's words, stay, so he stayed. Even when the door creaked open, even when a shadow stepped in, he didn't move. The figure took another step. A soldier, but before he could reach the boy, a knife spun through the air and hit his hand. The man screamed. Jack appeared in the doorway, breathing hard. Told you I'd come back. Soraya was behind him, armor cracked but eyes still burning. She ran to NeonAlienz and dropped to her knees. You are safe. She said the battle was over. The enemies were gone for now. Jack sat on the cold floor, bleeding from a cut on his arm. Soraya walked to him, a cloth in her hand. Without asking, she knelt and cleaned the blood. You didn't have to stay, she said softly. I know. You could have left when they came. I know. Why didn't you? Jack looked at her because once I picked him up from that fog, he became mine too. She stared at him for a long time. Then, without words, she placed her hand on his. Not as a queen, but as a mother. And maybe something more. The fires had stopped burning. Smoke still rose from parts of the junkyard. And broken machines lay scattered like fallen bones. But the sky over Verdanus Prime was clear again. Quiet, peaceful, inside the old hangar. Jack sat on the floor with his back against a dented fuel tank. His arm was bandaged, his jacket was torn, but his heart, it felt warm, different. Across from him, NeonAlienz slept curled up in a blanket, resting beside his mother. Soraya sat close, gently running her fingers through her son's soft hair. Silver armor had dents. Her face had small bruises, but her eyes were calm now. Jack watched them in silence. He never thought he'd be part of something like this. He never expected to be needed. When NeonAlienz stirred awake, he smiled. His voice was quiet. "You're still here." Jack nodded. "Told you I would be." The boy sat up slowly and looked at his mother. "Can Jack come with us?" Soraya smiled but didn't answer right away. She looked at Jack. "Will you?" Jack blinked. "What?" "You saved my son. You stood beside me when no one else did. You fought, bled, and protected a child that wasn't even yours." She paused. "You could have left, but you stayed." Jack looked down. "I was just doing what felt right." She stepped closer. "Then come with us. Not because of duty, not because you're owed something, but because maybe you belong." Jack felt something shift inside belong. That word, that feeling. He hadn't heard it in years. They left the hangar together. Soraya walked with confidence again. NeonAlienz held her hand on one side and Jack's hand on the other. The wrecked outpost stared in silence as the royal ship rose from behind the hills. Jack stared at it, sleek, shining, like something out of a dream. "You flew that alone, huh?" he asked. Soraya nodded. "I would have flown through stars if it meant finding my son." Jack smiled. "Guess I shouldn't complain about my old hovercart anymore." They walked toward the ramp, but before they entered, Soraya stopped. She turned to Jack. "You don't have to say yes now." Jack looked at NeonAlienz. The boy was staring at him with hopeful, glowing eyes. This small alien child had trusted him when no one else did, and this powerful alien woman had fought by his side. Not as a queen, but as something real. Something human. Jack took a deep breath. "I don't have much," he said quietly. "No fancy skills, no royal blood." Soraya stepped closer. "You have something better. Heart." Jack reached out and gently placed a hand on NeonAlienz's shoulder. "All right," he said with a grin. "But only if I get my own room on the ship." NeonAlienz laughed. "You can have the big one." The ramp rose behind them as the ship lifted into the sky. From the viewing deck, Jack stared out the window. The wasteland of Erdonis Prime grew smaller and smaller until it vanished beneath the clouds. Soraya stood beside him. "You'll be safe now," she said. "Our world, my world. It's not perfect, but there are those who will protect NeonAlienz, and you." Jack nodded. "That's all I need." She turned to him. "You will be treated as one of us, no longer a stranger." Jack didn't answer right away. He watched NeonAlienz in the corner, chasing a floating orb like any playful child would. "I was alone for a long time," Jack said softly. "Didn't think anyone needed me anymore." Soraya placed a hand on his arm. "Now, you're not alone." He looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, he believed it. Days later, they arrived at a grand alien city made of glass and light. Soraya's people welcomed her with quiet shock and humble bows. Many were surprised to see her alive, but all bowed even deeper when they saw the child, and when they asked who the strange human beside her was. She answered with just one line. "He is family." Jack's room in the palace was large. Too large for a simple scavenger like him. But he filled it with things that made it feel like home tools, maps, and even an old wrench from his freighter. Every morning, NeonAlienz would run into his room laughing. Every night, Soraya would sit with him on the balcony, talking softly under. The alien stars. She didn't call him a guest anymore. She called him something else. Orin. It meant protector of the heart in her language. Jack didn't say it out loud, but every time she said that name, it made his chest feel full. One evening, as the stars glittered above and the city lights danced below, NeonAlienz looked up at Jack and asked, "Can I call you Dad?" Jack's throat tightened. He smiled. "Yeah," he whispered. "You can." Soraya reached for Jack's hand and held it gently, and for the first time in his life, Jack realized he hadn't just saved a child. He had been saved too.